All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Mothers Unfiltered. Once again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. If you don't celebrate it, I hope you had a great day off or whatever floats your boat. I want to thank everybody that's here now. We're going to keep it nice and smooth and mellow as possible. Of course, when we go live, anything can happen, but we're going behind the scenes of a new movie that's coming out called Leatherman. Very, very excited. You have seen one of these people here all the time on the show, Charles Haskins. He is multi-talented. But before we introduce the cast and all that other things there, we're going to pass the mic to Ty. Go ahead, Ty.
Y'all already know the routine. Hey, for all the newcomers, welcome back. And to everyone else, if you like what we do, please support the channel. Press that like button, subscribe button, share, comment, do what you do. Bada bang, bada boom.
Oh, Lord. Well, once again, I want to jump into just to introduce everybody. First, I actually want to start with you, Charles, because, of course, we talked about so many other topics on the show about other things, but here specifically is about the film that you wrote, directed, you're executive producer on, helped build props, wardrobe design, you name it, you're the handyman. And I actually want you to, because of course you could have a great director and has this whole managerial skill and mindset, but you need a cast and crew to implement all that, to get it done. And you have that vision. You have some of your crew right here with you. If you can introduce your talented crew.
So my two leads on this were my man Trevor Dickerson, who I've worked with multiple times in the past on multiple shows, and the wonderful Evelyn. And we haven't worked together, actually. Me and Evelyn haven't worked on set together, but we trained in many of the same circles. And so that's how we became acquainted. And then from there, whatever, it was just a simple matter of putting together cast and crew. I actually approached Trevor after I finished Leatherman, finished writing it. The first person I contacted was Trevor. And I said, hey, man, I got a role for you. And I'm not going to be able to pay you. But I have a role for you. And since it looks like it's going to be a while before any of us stunt guys, get picked up for work due to the pandemic and COVID breakdown, whatever. How do you feel about playing a dark wizard? And he said, I like it. Tell me more. And so we chatted for about maybe an hour. I was actually headed to the rifle range for the other side of one of my other businesses. And we sit there talking, and he says, you know what? Hey, listen, brother, send me the script, and I'll get back to you. And literally the same night, he called and said, hey, I'm in.
Wow.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, Trevor, and also if you could throw in there what stood out about the actual script. You're like, oh, I got to be part of this. Because, especially when you're doing something for free, you definitely either have to love the person that you're doing it with, or you believe in that, you believe in what you're seeing. So tell me about that.
Well, the thing was, I tend to get cast as police officers, firemen, ex-military. And when I read Leatherman, I was, it was completely different from what I'm used to. Very ominous, very dark. I'm not used to playing those type of characters. I took it as a challenge, and I was like, this is what I want to do. It's a challenge. I want to get it done. I want to make this work. And, it was a lot of pressure because I knew how much Charles put into this project. Mm-hmm. And I was like, for this to be my first pretty dark role, I can't mess this up.
Okay.
So I just put everything into it, and I just did my best.
All right. If you can go ahead, Charles, and introduce your other crew member that just popped in right now.
Okay, that is the wonderful Alima Dorsey. She has been my mentor in the stunt industry. Matter of fact, she actually basically looked at me and said, "You're in the wrong department."
Wow.
And I was like, "What you mean? Look at the checks." I am in the pump department. And then after that, whenever I went ahead and I went stunts all the way. So she's been my very good friend, a great mentor in this industry. As I said before, most importantly, a great friend. Before the mentor part and everything, whatever. Just sitting back, whatever. Just chit chatting about different stuff, whatever. What I'm saying. She's been a great friend. So I actually asked her to be my stunt coordinator.
Awesome.
For the show, and she came on board, and without even reading the script, she said absolutely.
Wow. The question's going to come to you next, Alima. Why did you just jump on it instantly? Because I probably, especially you have this great background, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but you probably, or maybe people are always telling you, hey, what about this script? And hey, can you jump on this? And what about this? So all of a sudden here, you're like, hey, I'm going to make the time for this. Why?
Well, first, gotta go back, if you don't mind. Yes,
No.
I went up to Charles and I said he was in the wrong industry, but only because I saw his talent and I saw his drive and I saw his potential. So I just want to first say that, because as stunt people, we don't go up to people and tell them that they should be in our industry. Like, you really have to be a special person for someone in the industry to be like, yo, you should be doing stunts. So let me just say that first, because, just him having that military background, and his look and his talent and his discipline, and how trustworthy he is, like, those are the things that make up a great stunt man or woman or stunt person anyway. So, let me just preface first, let me just say that was the reason that I went up to him, because I knew he would be amazing. And now look at him now, like wow, I was right on, like I hit the needle on the head. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's perfect. And now, what was the second question?
Well, I guess that just answers it. Like, why? Yeah. You already answered that question already. It summed it up. But one thing you got to forget, he's bothersome. I'm his sister, and he's definitely bothersome. Evelyn,
but you know what? You have to be. You have to be in this industry, because if you don't ask, no one's going to tell you. So you have to be persistent. You have to always ask questions. I remember what made me decide to do this as a stunt coordinator. Let me just tell you what made me decide to do this. First of all, I would do anything. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said, remember what time it is?
I missed it.
Remember that she not hear me?
Oh.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, Alima. Go ahead.
Okay. I couldn't hear you. I'm so sorry. You're breaking in and out. But I do want to say that for Charles, I would do anything. Like, I didn't even need to see the script. I didn't even need to know if it was good or bad. I just knew that I wanted to be a part of whatever it is that he was doing. I was super honored, super grateful, super flattered, super humbled, because stunt coordinating and second unit directing is my next phase in my career. So what better person to jump it off with than with a friend, someone that has your back, someone that cares, and someone you can gel with, that you have a good team and support system with. So I would do anything for Charles. But aside from that, it was very beneficial for me too, because it gave me an opportunity to learn, make mistakes, to grow. And I feel like as a stunt performer, we try to sometimes skip that process. We just think, oh, we're great, we're amazing, we deserve to be, but we forget that no, you still have to train, you still have to learn. There's still steps, there's still a process to everything, especially when you're trying to grow in the industry. So I want to be a stunt coordinator. I want to be we don't have any relevant female African-American stunt coordinators in the United States. There's one in Canada, but there really aren't any in the United States. And I want to be that person. So for me, it was important to start from the ground up. I have to build a solid foundation. And this was honestly the perfect project for me to do that with, and with the perfect person, and honestly, the perfect stunt crew and just cast. Like, it couldn't have gotten any better. as far as us believing in each other, learning from each other, being patient with each other. So it was perfect. It was perfect.
All right. And I'm going to ask you, Evelyn, about yourself. I know initially Charles mentioned, like, he wanted you to have you part of the cast, but at the same time, you guys actually never worked together. So this was going to be a new opportunity. And it's just kind of like right now, I'm like, hey, can we do business together? You're like, I don't know. You just kind of have to have your feelers out. Is it the same thing? You just had this, like, I love the script, or, this vibe.
Well, I'll be honest with you, to follow what Lima was saying, I pretty much felt the same way about Charles. When I approached Charles, I found that he was doing a production, and I offered to do production assistant work for him. I offered to be a special effects makeup artist, anything that he needed. I told him I would do craft service just because I got a lot of love for Charles. He's a wonderful person, and that's where I started on this whole production. And then all of a sudden, I got calls that I was being looked at to stunt double, because Alima was like, well, Evelyn is a stunt woman, so she needs to be in the stunt department. And then before you know it, I got another call saying, well, Evelyn, we're looking at you to do Zenobia. And it went from me just wanting to just show my support, because I got a lot of, like I said, I have a lot of love for Charles and a lot of people that were on the production. I knew Lily was going to be there. I knew Trevor was going to be there. There's a lot of people on the production that I really have a lot of love for, and I was prepared to do anything. So it was really such a surprise and such a blessing, and so cool that all of them showed their support towards me. Alima gave me a high recommendation, and everyone supported that. And then all of a sudden I was in the Zenobia role. So I can't thank you enough. And I want to take this opportunity to say thank you again, Alima. I have so much love for you. Alima,
you deserve it.
Alima was the first person or stunt performer that I worked with in New York with. So she was on the very first job that I was hired on by Ian McLaughlin to work on Blind Spot. And she was on that job. And I watched her because, when you're fighting and you're in this big chaotic scene, I was like, I got my eyes on her. Her. And from my peripheral vision, I could see her pick up Ronda Rousey with no problem. No problem.
Wow.
And pull off a stunt that was very, very difficult. So I always had a lot of love for Alima and the support that she's always given me. So that's my little story.
That's
well, I'd love to add that, like, it's been amazing to watch Evelyn's career blossom and grow. I remember when she, I don't even know when you first got in the industry. I wouldn't even say that. I remember when I first met you. I had just moved to New York at that moment. And to see her from where she was then to where she is now, it's like, it's insane. And she was another person that, you looked at and you could just see the potential. You could see that they were going to go far. So it's wonderful to actually follow your career. And yeah, I did put your name in for the stunts, and then I put your name in for Zenobia because I was like, why? Like, why shouldn't she do it? Like, she could act, she could fight. Let's have her do it all. Like, it makes my job easier. So yeah, let's do that.
The funny thing about it was that Alima was in California, so it's like 12 o'clock at night, and she calls me, and I'm like, hello? And she says, Charles, got a minute? Anyway, so I'm like, it's 12 o'clock.
I'm like,
I know.
So late.
I want
to talk to you about Evelyn.
I want to go in and talk about the script and the idea and where you got everything from, Charles. But before I ask that question about the script and the ideas and all that, I wanted to also mention to the people that tune in now, later, that our co-host Ty was also a part of the crew. So just to put you on the spot, Ty. Regardless if it was in the background or what, you're still a part of it. So I just wanted to put everybody out there just to say, hey, even if you didn't want to talk about it, just to say, hey, you was a part of it.
Yeah, I was part of the support staff. I sent emails, text messages, Facebook stuff, stalked the cast and crew, tortured your brother kept a close eye on the money. You know, I was on him.
Yeah.
I played no game.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for staying on him.
Somebody has to. Your brother is like, I want this. This has to be done. Lima wants these figures. Send this. Turn this from PDF. I need it over here, and I need it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds right. That's right. That sounds like
That's
Charles.
it. So you learn to operate with fingers, toes, nose, ears, everything, because some don't check email, some is not on social media, some likes text messages, then there's a 30-minute reminders, so yeah, I'm the support staff, just watching.
Well, thank you so much.
You did a wonderful job.
Yes, yes.
Awesome job.
Yes, multi-talented. But just jumping into the script, a lot of people know or have heard, or maybe they seen the flyer, the advertisement. Okay, wait a second, what's this movie? What is it about? If you can tell us what the movie's about, and then where did you get the idea from?
So Leatherman is a dark fantasy movie based on the writings of H.P. Lovecraft, and with elements of steampunk. And essentially, it is about a dark wizard who journeys from his reality to ours to spread the corruption of its master, one of the old gods.
Mm-hmm.
And the old gods are like one of these dark, sinister cosmic beings that have existed since like creation started, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially he's a wizard who sold his soul for more power, and now he's coming to our reality to spread the chaos and the madness, that he brings. And then we have but he's followed into our reality by a warrior named Zenobi, who is here to put an end to his craziness. So that's essentially the gist of the actual movie.
Okay.
Where I got the idea from, I do a lot of like web surfing for ideas, and I literally have several notebooks. Like all these notebooks right here are filled with like ideas for movies, or just like little notes and things that I've taken down,
little ideas,
and I've written down, whatever. But I came across this Wikipedia article about a guy named Leatherman who actually lived in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy was like a homeless guy. He was homeless, and he literally had a outfit made of leather patches.
Okay.
From animals that he killed or pieces of scraps that he found here and there. And he would do this 30-mile circuit. He would disappear, pop up in another town, disappear, pop up into another town. Now, there was nothing really dark or sinister really about him, whatever. It was just that there was an ordinance against being homeless in the late 1800s. And homeless people would be arrested if you were homeless.
Mm-hmm.
And locked up in jail. And no one ever arrested Leatherman.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, what's going on? Why somehow he exempt from this law that been put in place in New York, whatever, to prevent homeless people living on the street? Everyone leaves. Something about this guy is why everyone leaves him alone. And so I was just pondering one day, and I asked him to write little notes and little ideas. Just came together, whatever, and I said, "Oh, I have a villain." Let me go ahead and create the story on how he became the villain. And I used to play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. And so I sat down there, whatever, and I literally wrote like a campaign, like as if I was playing this adventure. And I wrote up all the characters and everything, just like I did when I was a game master. Yeah. And I wrote the entire story out. Then after that, I opened up final draft and start typing everything away, and I had my script.
Okay. Well, let me ask this question, Trevor. So we all know from working in any industry, there's the pros we see the glamorous side of the film production, you know, especially when the wartime comes. You'll see the people dressed up and they're ready on their fancy outfits and just everything. But then there's the cons. What were the hiccups? What were the things like, oh my God, was it the wardrobe changes? Was it the malfunctions of some type of equipment? What was it for you that was just like, okay, breathe, inhale?
It was basically, it was a couple things.
Okay.
The number one thing was staying cool. It was so hot in that mask. Like, I thought that being that it was only covering just the front part of my face, that it was going to be enough ventilation to keep me cool. Totally not the case. It was so hot inside that mask. And the second thing was I couldn't see. It was my peripheral vision was just like so limited. It was crazy. I was bumping into things on the set. It was funny. It was really funny. Yeah.
And it's so funny because as a stunt performer, he has no sympathy. Just so you know, like you're like, yo, make it work, make it work.
It was funny because
no sympathy.
He had to like swipe at Evelyn and like swipe to Evelyn, and Evelyn's like over there. I'm like, no, Trevor, that way.
Not me, Evelyn.
So how many takes was that? How many takes was that?
Oh man.
I messed poor Trevor up a couple of times with that wind too.
Oh yeah, and I had a big flowy cape.
I felt so bad.
And it made it pretty challenging when it came to doing our fight scene. So
your character, Trevor, Leatherman's character and the whole costume is scary. It is very, very scary and very intimidating. And then, you know, from our conversation yesterday on our, celebration thing, you're tall. So you balance over people, so it scared people more. We would do read-throughs. So we would do, like Zoom rehearsals and stuff. And Trevor would get into character and that voice, that deep Leatherman voice. He didn't even have the mask on. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
How tall are you, Trevor?
I'm 6'2.5".
Okay, wow.
I gotta add that half.
Okay.
Hey, now Trevor told me he was 6'3" when I met him.
Hey, I lost a half inch.
Well, when we get older, we lose our height.
It happens. So wait, I have a question. Alima, how was it managing the stunts? And
awesome. It was awesome. That's the easy part, especially when you have a good group of people, a good group of stunt guys. Managing them is easy, especially because, they know what they're doing. It's just a matter of just kind of giving direction and tweaking, some of the things that they already had done so that it would work. But that was the easy part. Absolutely.
See, who put the stunts together, or you oversaw everything?
So it was Paul and myself, and we would put the fights together. We would talk about the ideas that we want. We'd go through the script, talk about the style of fighting that we want, talk about like different ideas that we would want to happen throughout the story so that it would connect. But then I had an amazing fight coordinator who would then take everything that we would say and actually put the fights together. And then he would call me back. We did this from California to New York, which isn't normal, but I wasn't able to be there. So we would be on the phone all times of night. We would be going through video, and I would basically be telling him what I want. He would then meet with the stunt people, try to put something together. He would then call me back, or I'd call him. We'd have a meeting every Sunday, and we would discuss everything that they went over. And I would kind of just guide him in the direction that I wanted, what I wanted from the fights. And I told him exactly what I wanted from each fighter, like the style of fighting that I wanted. And so from that and from the movie references, we were actually able to put something together. But my fight coordinator was amazing. he actually, you know, took care of a lot of the fights while I wasn't there. And it was just a matter of him speaking to me and me tweaking some of the things that he did. But that's just a part of the management aspect of stunt coordinating. It's also finding the best people for the job. So I had the best stunt coordinator fight coordinator that I could possibly have. So
Awesome.
he too made my job very easy as well.
Wow. It's interesting, and I wanted to touch upon this because, you know, I'll start giving out statistics and did you know? So I'm gonna have to give you one. So the first Black African American director was in 1884 by the name of Oscar DeRoe. And you hear a lot of different individuals say, you know, hey, I put a movie together, but actually to get it produced and, you know, just to kind of go through those, at least attempt production. Of course, in 1884, things were not as smooth and transparent as it's now in 2020. But for you, Charles, to be a part of that, how does that feel that you are a director now? Because like I said, anybody can say, yeah, I got this thing going on. Yeah, you know, got a little camcorder. I directed it. But this is actual production. You know, you have a whole thing happening here.
Well, you know, so, you know, I retired after the military in 2015. And one of the things was, you know, a lot of veterans, unfortunately, don't take the same time and energy to develop their post-career as they should, you know. Sure. And so I saw a lot of guys getting in trouble in their post-careers, feeling lost, you know, not able to feel a sense of accomplishment compared to what they did in the military, especially when you're used to operating on a world stage. And then you go back home for operating in the world stage and now being, you know, the vendor machine guy, whatever, you know what I'm saying? You know, it's a big blow to the ego. So I knew I wanted to do something that involved creativity, especially since, you know, what I did in the military was essentially, you know, going after people. You know, I was in the infantry. So I wanted something that involved creativity, kind of to bring me back to who I was prior to me joining the service. You know, and I gave a lot of thought, whatever, and I was thinking about writing and stuff like that. And then a buddy of mine was like, dude, why don't you do filmmaking? You know, you talk a lot of smack, you know, put those skills, you know, the jaw jacking skills, whatever, put it on paper, whatever, you know. And so I went to film school and graduated and got my Master of Fine Arts in film production. And then from there, you know, I started making the small little short films here and there. But this one was different. This one was, I'd focused the past 3 or 4 years just in stunts, and I kind of left filmmaking alone. And then the pandemic hit, you know, and New York was on lockdown, and I'm sitting back there, and our little crew, our Breakfall, you know, shout out to Breakfall Stunts. We would have these Zoom chats, you know, all of us just, you know, trying to stay connected because we're not allowed to meet and train in person.
Of course.
And I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna write a movie. I'm gonna write a full-fledged movie, something that'll be anywhere between 30 to 40 minutes. And, you know, I'll hit you guys up when it's done. And sure enough, whatever, you know, it was just after a couple of rewrites and a couple of you know, pulling ideas, you know, from different people, whatever, you know, Leatherman came to life. And like I said, the first person I talked to it after it was completed was Trevor. Once I got him on board, then it was after that was a hunt for Zenobi and flesh out all the other cast members. But I had an idea of exactly who I wanted for every single person initially, because when I write, I like to write around the strengths of the actors. Yeah, I want it to be challenging for the actors as well, but I want to write around the strengths, you know, so that these are things that I know that they're capable of doing.
Of course.
And then after that, I put my crew together.
Okay.
My cousin Ty, whatever, she wanted to come on board. Asked, you know, they got everyone put together, and next thing we know, you know, we're in production. And it went so quick too. Literally, you know, we were in production like 4 months, 5 months, whatever. And the next thing you know, whatever, Ty gives me a call and she's like, "We're filming next week." What? We're filming next week? I say, "Oh snap, we are filming next week." Oh snap. And I started making phone calls and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, we knew." I was like, "Well, I didn't know."
Can I just say really quick, I want to give a shout out to my sis Jewel, because she's also like the backbone of this film. Jewel is like literally the right hand right next to your brother the whole step of the way.
Yes.
And she handled one part of the production and I handled the other. And like we worked together so well with the rest of the cast and crew. And I say this all the time, and I'm going to say it again on live. What I noticed about Charles, and I call him Mr. Charles, when we're going to that's out of respect. He has a gift that he was literally able to hand pick every person and put them in a role where they shined. And everyone meshed together so well. It was beautiful, beautiful. It was one of the greatest experiences that I've had. And I want to say again, Mr. Charles, thank you for giving me that opportunity. I appreciate it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I wanted to ask Evelyn, in regards to you being the leading lady, you know, as being a leading lady, you'll have young women, young ladies, little girls, you know, they see this hero, you know, and they're like, wait, that could be me. Like, wow, you know what I'm saying? I can do that too. And you know, as sometimes you see celebrities or you see people in the industry and they're like, I don't want you to look at me as a hero because, or a heroine, because of the fact I'm human and make mistakes. I'm grown. I don't want little people looking at me like I need to be on this pedestal. How do you deal with that? Because there'll probably be so many other roles where you'll star in and do phenomenal things. But how do you balance that? Because on one end, it's great. Those little girls are looking at you and they're holding their swords up or their play toys, you know, and they're like, hey. But in the same breath, you are human. You know, are you wanting to be looked at as a heroine, or are you just kind of like, okay, and I'm a little modest? You know, how do you feel about all that?
Well, I have to say, to be honest with you, like, especially in this production, I didn't really feel like the leading lady. I kind of felt like just a part of like a really big, amazing team. Okay. So that's the truth. Like from my heart, I really didn't feel like a leading lady. More so, I just felt like a really big part of an amazing team. And I feel like that's what I would love to give to other people. If I have to give them if anything to give, is to always be a part of a team, because we're stronger in numbers.
Okay.
We're stronger in numbers, and we have to be supportive of each other. Just like Alima was so supportive of me and Charles and Trevor and Ty and Jewel and Marcy and everyone that was on this production. So yes, there are times when I am very protective of children. So I try to like pull things from, you know, I don't have anything on the internet that's really bad, but I did do a movie production recently. I'm like, I don't know if I want the kids to see that. I'm killing people. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm protective in that way, but it's movies, it's acting, it's being creative. So I would say that it's really nice to be a woman of color who has been chosen for a leading role in a couple of productions now. I'm very grateful for that.
Awesome.
Because I do want for people, I know when I was coming up, when I've been in the industry since I was 19 years old, not in the stunt industry, as an actress, since I was 19 years old, I didn't see a whole lot of people that looked like me. But when I did, my eyes were glued in on them. And I wanted to do things in the entertainment industry. So it's nice when we see people like Alima.
Yeah.
It's such a wonderful representation of our people. And Trevor and Charles and you yourself, Kia, and Ty, with what you're doing with this podcast. All of these things enable the young people to know that they can too, even if they don't have anybody in their family that does this work in the industry. So
That's
I think that we
awesome.
got to keep spreading that wonderful word that they can be in those roles and keep
Awesome.
giving them those opportunities any chance we get.
Awesome.
I think another part of it too is not only do you want to be involved in those opportunities, but you also got to be willing to make those opportunities.
Yeah.
And that is another part of the equation that I think that has been where you'll see the people, especially like in the African American diaspora, where they're able to shine, where no opportunity exists for you. Guess what? I'm going to make an opportunity.
Yeah.
I know that it's not going to, my chances of getting into the Directors Guild, it's probably not going to happen anytime soon, if ever. Guess what? I don't need the Directors Guild in order for me to go ahead and to be a director, to write quality films. You know what I'm saying? I can go ahead and write, and I'm not taking a drive at any of the other filmmakers, whatever, who do like more comedic stuff, whatever. But we kind of have that niche of comedy. We kind of have that in spades. You know what I'm saying? You look at any of the past productions, whatever, of African American or even Afro Latino or Latino filmmaking, whatever. We got comedy up the wazoo. Hell, sometimes growing up, our lives are a comedy. So we got that in spades. I never saw a lot of science fiction writers.
No.
If you look at all the major science fiction productions and movies, whatever, they're not written by us. They're not written by African Americans. They're not written by our Latino brothers and sisters, whatever. You know what I'm saying? They're not there. So for me as a writer, whatever, some people say, "Oh, well, Charles, why don't you write more, more like comedy stuff, whatever?" And listen, I grew up on Good Times. What's happening? We got comedy up the wazoo, whatever. Okay? Not one show in the 80s.
You're showing your age. You're showing your age.
Well, my mother told me about
these. Good time. She said good time.
I just want to put out there that he's my big brother. I want to put out there that he's my big brother. I'm his little sister.
Yes. Good time.
I have no clue about those shows. No clue.
You went back there. You went way back, Alima.
Let's blame it on the wine. Let's blame it on the wine he's drinking.
Right. So, but the cool thing, though,
anytime you need a payment.
Good time. And they never made it. But wait a second, they never made it out of the hood. I don't care how many rappers do it.
Never.
No, you want to know why? You want to know why? Because George came and they was moving on up. That's why. It went straight from them to the Jeffersons.
That's right.
Yeah, the Jeffersons, they were the next black people.
Thank you for showing our age, Charles. Thank you.
But from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, none of these shows, they're all comedy. Every sitcom show was a comedy show. There's never a science fiction show. There's never a horror show. And then when we did get a horror show, we got Candyman, which I loved. But then we also got, we got Tales from the Hood, and what Tales from the Hood is an important film, a very important film, but it also dwelled deeply into the stereotypes of what we saw people in the hood, And I'm from the hood, and so I knew people who acted like that, whatever, but I didn't act like that, whatever,
Yeah.
And I'm like, so while all these films, they're all building blocks, whatever. Okay, it's time to showcase whatever. We need to have our Luke Skywalker. We need to have our Han Solo. And we need to have our Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, we had James Earl Jones, the voice, but. And then we had David Prowse, who was the body of Darth Vader, an Englishman.
Who just passed away.
He's passed away today, whatever. Rest in peace on that. But
and Wesley Snipes from Blade, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Really, one of the
Yeah.
first ones.
But just to kind of interrupt what you're,
that jump.
but just to kind of interrupt, and you're making some valid points. Unfortunately, during that time, we've been, you know, cast typed into certain roles. You know, if we didn't have, you know, those iconic comedies like you're mentioning, we were doing a lot of shucking and jiving, this, that, and the third, and just falling into those stereotypes. And then if we didn't do the comedy, it had something always to do with slavery. And you're like, wait a second. I know we did more than just become slaves. Like, I know there was a whole lineage. And it's funny because, and just for the audience to know, Charles and I will always go back and forth about films, because even though he has his master's degree in films, I got my associate in films, and I'm like, hey, and what about this one? And he's like, I don't do that one. We need to do our own. I'm like, oh, and we're having like this battle between each other, because for me, you know, if anybody studies film or is in the industry at all, you know, you start to study film literally, and you're like, wait a second, I love this part. But he makes this good point, guys, in reference to just creating our own. We don't have, when it comes to sci-fi, and when you mention horror, if we're not like the Wesley Snipe or the Candyman, we literally die in the first 5 minutes. You know, we end up getting killed, even though we run away and we don't go opening the door when we hear some noise. I don't know how we get caught up. People like, what? We get bopped upside the head, and we did, you know. So unfortunately, I definitely understand, but I do respect the fact what you're saying in regards to we have to create our own. I wanted to ask you.
We have to be the heroes of our own stories.
I wanted to ask one question before you head out about the stunt coordinating. So, in regards to the fighting, you make it seem it's a lot of work, but you make it seem so easy. I don't want to say, oh yes, because of the editing. Oh well, the editors, they just did this and this, and it was like boom, boom, and now we have it. How hard is it? How hard is the whole production, this art of, you know, putting a whole fight scene together? Oh, did she hear?
Can she?
Are you asking me? Or are you asking?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Whoever
Who
wanted to jump
I'm
in.
sorry.
You. I was asking you. I'm sorry.
Think asking you, Alima.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were asking
Oh,
me or
yeah.
you were asking Charles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Really?
Putting, you know, putting the whole production together, it wasn't necessarily hard. It was just more tedious. It was just making sure your T's were crossed and your I's were dotted. Editing is not the be all to end all. You can't rely on editing. So you've got to make your hits and get your shots before you go to the editing room.
Okay.
Because if you don't get your shots before you go to the editing room, it doesn't matter how they edit it, it's not going to work. So the most strenuous thing about fight coordinating is making sure that your hits sell. So I would say that was probably just the most challenging thing, is just making sure that we had the right camera angle, and that we had the right move and the right reaction so that the hits would sell. But once you get the right talent that knows what they're doing, who's disciplined in their craft, they know camera angles, and they also know how to make a hit sell. So again, that too was not that challenging. It wasn't a very hard process because of the people that we had on board. You know, we had very professional people that knew exactly what they were doing, who took direction very well, and who were able to switch up and change up in a blink of an eye. So putting together the fight was not that difficult because we had amazing people doing it. It would be different if we had less talented people in front of the camera and also behind the camera. But we had a great, super talented crew. So that part really wasn't that challenging. It was a matter of just giving the direction and then taking it, receiving it, and then performing. And we had great performers out there. So it wasn't that hard.
Awesome.
Can I just say, well, first of all, Jarvis, if you're still on, hello. Jarvis is someone who is also part of the short film, but Evelyn, so we know that you are a stunt actor and also an actress, but you hadn't used a sword before until this, right? How was that?
Well, I'll be honest with you. If it wasn't for the direction that I received from Alima and from Paul and You know, I got a lot of training beforehand. And Jared Kirby. Jared Kirby was excellent at teaching me my sword work. He was so incredibly good at it. He's an incredible teacher. I'm going to be training with him now because Alima, you know, when successful people tell you something, you listen. Alima's like, you're going to be training in sword, right? And I go, yep. So on her direction, I am going to be training in sword, and I've already contacted Jared Kirby so I can continue with my sword work because of Alima.
I was like, you gonna be training, right?
That's right,
You gonna
girl.
be training? Okay, right. Okay, good.
He motivates me. He motivates me. So that was it. That was it. And I said, I'm going to do this. So I had some great training and some really good coaching. And I have to say that a lot of patient people, because it takes a lot of patience to, you know, to get out there and work with people that know what they're doing. And so it's great that they have patience with you. And that's
Like, when I think about stunt work, you don't think, me personally, you don't think that you really have to know how to use a sword and then how to flip or how to put not every stunt actor knows how to do each craft, right?
Right. I mean, for me, honestly, I feel like I try to use the fight technique that I do know and incorporate it into my sword work. You know, like throwing a punch and selling it for angles and selling things with energy and with, you know, the right strikes. But again, I had great coaching and great direction from Alima and Paul and Jared Kirby. So they had me feeling the part and looking the part, and you know, I'm grateful to them because I had never done sword work before.
I also want to say that I keep making it seem like everything was super easy, and it wasn't. We put so much time and energy and effort into training, which is why it then became very easy when it was time to perform. I mean, the stunt team literally met together. They would practice together. They were training Evelyn in swords. I was training Vanessa here in California. So we were very intent. Like, it was easy because we put in all the effort and energy that we needed to put in the beginning to get exactly what we wanted at the end. But we put in a lot of time and effort and energy into our training so that when we got on set, we can sell the hits and we can sell the reaction and make it as smooth of a shooting day as possible. But I have to give props to the stunt team. I mean, they met several times to put together the choreo and to practice with one another and to make sure each person was amazing and great and was held accountable for what they can do and what they said they can do and what they're supposed to do. So like the stunt team really gave, you know, a lot of their time because, you know, this wasn't a really high budget film where we were paying all this money. If anything, actually. So it was just, you know, it was one of those things where the stunt people really gave their time and they dedicated all of their energy and efforts in order to make this work. And that means meeting without pay and making sure everyone knows exactly what they're doing. So kudos to the stunt group for wanting to make it happen and for putting in the extra time and discipline that it took so that I can sit here and say, oh yeah, that wasn't hard at all. Like, it was awesome. It wasn't hard. But yeah, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes so that you can get to this point where you can say, oh yeah, it really wasn't that difficult. But that's the reason why.
One of the oh, go ahead.
Can you guys tell us about the hand in the sword? Because has this really big, long mechanical. Go ahead, please.
I hate to talk about it because I don't want to make Charles cry because of how the claw met its demise.
But you can talk about it, Trevor. You can talk about it.
I just don't want to give away any vital information. I don't want to give away any spoilers.
Yes.
Without revealing anything, whatever, I put a lot of time, energy into making Leatherman's claw, and it doesn't survive the end of the film. And I would leave it at that.
That's good. We don't want to give any spoilers. But I have a question for you, Trevor. So when it comes to acting, and regardless if you're putting a whole costume on or you have some type of, makeup and different things going on, it still takes a certain amount of energy just to perform. Maybe you're a method actor. And I always think method acting is a little scary based on what type of role that you're portraying, because let's just say the person was a serial killer or some sort.
Right.
You may be taking this whole crazy thing to a whole nother level.
Right.
But then again, when you look at method actors, you're like, wow, encore, but then turn that off. In reference to you, how do you, get into that role, being this killer?
Like I said before, like I took this role very seriously because it was the first long-term role I've ever gotten. Anything else was just like day playing, but this is the first long-term role where I had to really get into it emotionally, remembering tons of lines. So I was really obsessed with rehearsing. I was listening to videos. I would go out on my bike 4 o'clock in the morning, listening to the lines that I recorded into my phone over and over again, and just reading them back to myself as I'm riding my bike at 4 o'clock in the morning. To the point where when I got home and it was time to get my kids ready for school, and my wife's, we're doing our morning routine, and she would turn to me like, "Why are you talking like that?"
Whoa.
I was totally in Leatherman, mode, and just didn't even realize it. And then I would call my mom on the phone. She's like, "Are you sick, baby? Like, what's wrong?"
Not the COVID.
Yeah, exactly. But then my wife flipped it on me. She was like, am I going to see Leatherman later on tonight?
Is he coming home with
So
you?
she was really feeling the voice.
Whoa.
It's that deep, dark, like it's that voice.
Wow.
So yeah, I
You
really
guys,
got into it.
I have to go. Unfortunately, I don't want to just blank
Oh
out.
no,
But
definitely. Thank you so much.
Alima, thank
you for
so
everything.
much.
So nice seeing you guys.
Thank
Say
So
you.
nice
Alima.
seeing you.
See you on set.
Bye.
She's a busy woman. She's a very
busy.
Wow, totally
Really
understand.
Yeah.
But so you were just basically saying, Trevor, that you were just involved into that role.
Totally involved, and probably method straight up. Like,
wow.
As soon as I put that mask on, it was just all business.
But that's the question, though, and I find it so intriguing because, like I said, when I see method actors, the greats, the Al Pacinos and the Robert De Niro's, they're gangsters 24 hours of the day if they're playing that role. Right. And even their family members are like, yeah, he brings that role to the house, and they have to really kind of have this mental check in their head, like, wait a second, I can't.
You got to know where to draw the line.
Yeah, right? yeah. So it's like, where and how did you digress from that? So right now you're Leatherman, and you have this deep voice, and it's kind of like, whoa. And then you have, your little baby walking up, like, can I have some milk? Like, you're not gonna have that, like, how do you, flip off that switch real quick? Do you give yourself a moment, or?
I think it's easy for me to turn Leatherman's ways and personality off. But it was hard for me to turn the voice off.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Like, it was a clear line where I was like, okay, these are my kids. This is my wife. They're treated with respect. You know what I mean? You don't cross that line.
Gotcha.
But the voice was more of like a habit. Like I was just, Leatherman.
Hey.
I found myself in stores like talking like that, and people looking at me like, this guy is strange.
Plus they're tall too, and you got the deep voice. Awesome.
I know it was funny because a couple of times, whatever, I'm actually like, I did a couple like rewrites to a couple of scenes, whatever, and I rewrote his scenes, whatever. And the next minute, I find myself like talking in the Leatherman voice as I'm doing the thing, whatever.
Yeah,
and my son walks into the house and he goes, Dada, why you talk like that?
Right.
I'm like, oh snap, I'm talking like Leatherman, whatever. Now my voice doesn't reach the depth that Trevor does, whatever, but this as the writer, the creator of Leatherman, whatever, I found myself after Trevor's performance, whatever, I found myself during the rewrites I would act out as if, the voice of Leatherman, to the best of my ability while I was writing, because it had impressed me that much, whatever, that he crafted this sort of like raspy presence. I mean, like when it's like, certain villains, whatever, had this overpower, like when Darth Vader walks into the room, whatever, it's like this booming like presence, whatever. Leatherman's not like that. Leatherman's more subtle, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But when he spoke like Leatherman, I was like, ooh, yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, somebody died in this film.
I wanted to get to a question. So we have one from Cash that says, when and how will we be able to view the film?
So the film is officially in post-production right now. And my editor, I'm sending him off the footage, everything tomorrow. And so he'll have that, and he'll be working on that for the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
We have to go into all the editing. We have to go into all the special effects. And then we have to go ahead add in sounds, and then we got to do the film score for everything, whatever. We're estimated time frame is about April of next year. Okay. Everything should be completed, and we should be able to showcase the film in a private screening for cast and crew. And then after that, we will then, show that, bring it out to the world, so everyone can see our work.
And I'm assuming that sometimes there might be delays just because this whole thing is so, COVID has really kicked the butts in the film industry.
Yes.
And has postponed so many productions, from something as simple as something on the radio all the way to a big, movie series or whatever. It has had its play in the film industry. So you're looking tentatively for that day, of course, that month per se, especially if COVID
that's the estimated time frame.
Yeah,
yes, that's the estimated time frame right now. And so far, with the exception of like 1 or 2 things, we've stuck mainly to our time schedule on everything that we've estimated, whatever, because we actually anticipate those things. So we sat there, whatever, knowing what people's schedules are, knowing COVID and the regulations, and different state regulations for different things. It's leaving one of the more stricter states, which New York, as far as COVID was concerned, and I'm shipping all the material to a very, very loosey-goosey state when it comes to regulations and rules and stuff like that.
Must be the South.
Yes. Florida. Anyway, so our editor is actually an alumni of the same film school that I went to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yes.
Great school.
He is. He's on board, and again, he read the script. He said, "I'm in." So this will be a great opportunity for him as well. And I can't wait to see it in the big screen now. Estimating it right now, looking at the footage, we're looking at 40 minutes. 40 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
40 minutes of footage.
40 minutes of fill time once everything is completed. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So my last 2 questions for you 3, and this is separate from Ty, if she had any. Of course, we could start off with you, Evelyn, then Trevor, then Charles. What's next? And then any advice for anybody who's wanting to go ahead and say, you know what? I want to do that. What do I do? Because, of course, you'd be the female here left on the platform. So you definitely could speak out. Well, what should a woman do? How do I get past all that? But, yeah, what's next for you? And then the advice that you would give young ladies looking to go into that the industry.
Sorry. Well, I'm actually working for a really cool coordinator this week, Chris Barnes. I'll be working for him starting tomorrow until the 7th. So I'm on a production here in New York City, which I'm really excited about.
Great.
In the role of a cop, which is really cool. Okay. And part of my tactical training that I received was from Charles Haskins. I'm very proud of that and very excited that his training has really helped me a lot to sort of put me on the radar with a few coordinators, and I've already written him about that, so he knows that. And thank you again, Charles, for all that amazing training that you gave me in his technical training course. Thank you. After that, I'm working on, I produce as well, so I'm producing a production continuing on with Tales of a Scorpio Stinger, which I would play a heroic character, but a sort of a slash serial killer.
Okay.
So yeah, just really brutal. It's not a kids movie. But I would love to, the advice that Alima was giving me on this production was that she wanted me to concentrate on things that we need to see more people of color in. And one of those things was the sword work. She said, Evelyn, there's not a lot of people of color that do sword work. So you really need to continue on with that, because she says, I see you love it. You really do love it. You put your time in, and this is new for you, but you really love it. And I can see that. So I want you to continue on with that training. And that's why I said, Alima, done. Not even in question. I called Jared right away. I continue on with my stunt driving training. I do, and now I've been getting calls for some stunt driving jobs, and some pretty cool ones, not just the stop and go. I've been relied on to do some pretty intense stunt driving jobs. Well, intense for me, maybe not out there. Not for the big drivers out there, not the coordinators, but the big drivers out there. And so I would say just continue to know that you can do these things, put the training in, invest in yourself, save that money rather than spend it on little this and little that. Put little money away, save your money. That's what I do when I'm not spending it on rescuing animals. I can spend a lot of money on that. But I invest in my training, and I continue to know that I can do these things. And I always say to myself, this is a really good thing that I would say, I am who I am, I belong here, and I don't have to make excuses for anyone.
Yes.
Always remember that.
Yes. I love it. That's a finger snap. Yes.
Word, Jerry Hewitt.
Yes, I love it. What about you, Trevor? What's next for you?
How do you come behind Evelyn after all that?
I love you, Trevor.
Like,
You gotta
why couldn't
come
I
high.
go first? Why
You
couldn't I
gotta go
first?
high. What's next and any advice?
As far as what's next, I'm working for stunt coordinator Pete Bacozzi, police officer role like Evelyn's, and just training and waiting for my next assignment from Charles.
Oh.
You know what I mean? I'm staying in shape, staying in the gym, finding like screenplays that I could just memorize and do some scene analysis and really learn some roles just for practice for the next role. So that's what I'm going to be doing, continuing my stunt fighting, stunt driving, working with weapons training, just trying to stay ready so I don't have to get ready, pretty much.
I know that's right.
Yeah.
And what's your advice to young men trying to come in, you know, and say, hey, you know, I'm young, I'm Black, and is this for me? You know, what would you tell them?
I would say give it a shot and network. Put yourself out there. Be prepared. Like Evelyn said, save your money. Don't spend your money on you know, stuff that just doesn't matter. Like, invest in yourself. Invest in an acting class, in a stunt class, but mostly, you know, keeping your mind right, keeping your body right, staying healthy, getting your rest, and just communicating as much as you can, and just putting yourself out there.
Great. Thank you, Trevor. And for you, Charles, AKA my big brother that's so annoying.
Well together.
What's next for me is to continue the internal torment of my younger sister. But no, seriously, it was 2020 was a real big eye opener for me. I've been in the stunt industry now, going on just shy of 5 years, and I had never worked in the very beginning of the year. I always had to wait till around late April, May, and then I would start getting hired, and then boom, things escalated from there, and I would work the rest of the year. This was the first year I actually worked January and February. I was getting calls I got a call January 3rd, like right after the New Year break, whatever. Hey, Charles, boom, I want you. Are you available? Whatever, you know. And things were looking so good, and then COVID hit, and even though film industry picked back up, I haven't received a call for anything, except for one availability from Roy, who was a great stunt coordinator, Roy Farfel, and you know, but the director wanted to go with someone else for that role. With the exception of that, whatever, I got received anything, but it was a great big eye opener because it made me realize, whatever, yeah, you know, stunts has been great for me for the past 4 or 5 years, but I didn't get into the film industry to be a stuntman. You know, stunts found me, you know, through Alima, whatever, and stuff like that, and I'm eternally grateful. It was an aspect of the film industry I knew nothing about, and now I've been engrossed into it for the past 5 years. Acting and writing and directing is what I got into the film industry for, and but because I have a 5 years of being a stunt performer, you know, working with so many amazing people and absorbing the things that they learned and things that they you know, plus, you know, sharing knowledge with them as well. But being the writer, director, making characters, non-typical characters, making characters of relevance, as well as having a production that is culturally representation. You know, I'm big on that. If you watch this production right here, we had everything. You know, every ethnic group, whatever, was on this production. You know,
that's awesome.
And you know, and I've heard, like, you know, a lot of naysayers, whatever, when it comes to cultural representation. Oh, you'll never get the best, whatever, because you just want to hire someone for this. I said, listen, I can find the best in every flavor. Okay, you just got to take the time and energy, whatever, to make sure, whatever. Okay. Now, of course, when you have a working relationship with people, whatever, you're gonna pick who you know. You know,
Right.
I've worked with this person before. I've worked with Trevor before. That's one of the reasons why I offered him Leatherman from the jump. You know, when this is done, I offered it. I worked with Trevor more so than most other stunt performers, whatever. I worked with Trevor like at least 4 or 5 occasions already, whatever. You know,
At least.
yeah. You know, so developing those bonds, those connections, whatever. What I would tell someone who wants to get into writing and directing, write and direct. You have a cell phone, and that cell phone has a camera, and some cell phones now shoot in 4K. All right. One of the best shows within the past 6 years to hit the Sundance Film Festival was called Tangerine. It was filmed on iPhones.
Wow.
This was it swept the award shows. I know, for independent films.
Wow.
It was shot on an iPhone 5. You can write, you can direct, you can even edit on your phone. Okay, and that's how you build your craft. I spent a lot of money on film school that I probably didn't have to. I don't regret it, because it technically was you know, the military. It was military money.
Thank you, military. Thank you, Army.
I earned it. You know, from being a veteran. But you know, I mean, you know, but still, you know, I could have literally had jumped into the actual industry, just PAing and figuring it out from there. I don't regret film school. It was important because it allowed me to make those that decision which direction I wanted to go into quicker. You know, when you go to film school, you may want to go. You may want to be the sound guy. You may want to go into post production. You want to you may want to be a grip. You want to be a gaffer. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's different positions that you can learn while you're in film, whatever. I knew once I got to film school what I wanted to do. That was write and direct. So guess what? If you want to be a writer and director, write and direct. You have a phone at your disposal.
No, I just want to say thank you for the whole cast, and of course, there's so many other cast members that are so busy and they weren't able to make it, and even for Alima who jumped on and jumped off, she's very busy as well. But thank you so much. We can't wait to have the film finalized and completion, so we'll be able to air it. And I'm so honored. Of course, you're my brother, but besides that, growing up with you, you have this mind. You brought me into Dungeons and Dragons and Cyberpunk and all this whole alternate world that's not typical of people growing up in Harlem. And in certain neighborhoods, and you were always had this, just always thinking, and I always try to copy and implement, my big brother. But it's just always it's a blessing to see, you right now doing so many wonderful things, and so many people just, oh my God, I'm so happy that I'm working with Charles. And I'm like, yeah, that's my brother. But no, it's definitely a blessing. And I'm so happy to meet you, Trevor and Evelyn. And for people who are tuning in now, later, and everything, thank you. Any last words, Ty?
I just want to say again, thank you, Mr. Charles, for giving me this opportunity. Let me just make this announcement. So when you see the poster, when you see LEATHERMAN, it'll say the Gruntworks Entertainment in cooperation with Ty Consulting.
Yeah, so that's her.
I'm Ty Consultant. So I am also someone who is able to have the opportunity to invest in the film. So again, my name is out there. I'm on IMDb. I'm excited, yeah.
And that's my cousin too.
But seriously, LEATHERMAN, please wait for it. It's gonna be good. Charles handpicked the best cast and crew, from being on camera to working behind the scenes. Being someone that had their hands dipped in everything. The entertainment world is no joke, and if you've never been in it, it's very busy. It has a lot of different details, a lot of different aspects that I'm still learning. When you see Zenobi, aka Evelyn, aka Zenobi, and you see her hair, I want everyone to understand that Alonda Harris is the one that was the hairstylist for Zenobi. So I have to put that out there, because Alonda rocked your hair. Oh,
Alonda.
Gee, yeah. She rocked it. To the rest of the cast and crew, you guys did a great job. You made this experience welcoming for me. So I want to say thank you. And that's pretty much it.
Go ahead, Trevor.
There's just a little thing I wanted to add. Just to piggyback on that whole thing about Charles handpicking everybody from the cast to the crew. I've been on hundreds of sets, just like Evelyn, just like Charles. I've never been on a set before in my life, like the Leatherman set, where everyone got along so well. And we did this on weekends. When I wasn't around them, I actually missed everyone.
That's
and
awesome.
When it was time to go back to set, it was like I was going away to go hang out with my friends and have a good time. And don't get it wrong, we were working hard, but at the same time, we had the best time together. The stories that I heard, and it was the most diverse group that I ever worked with. And just the stories, the jokes, and no one got their feelings hurt. We all laughed together, we ate together, and we worked hard together. So it was just an amazing experience that I've never, ever experienced before in my life, especially on a film set.
And just hearing this from everybody, that's something that everybody has mentioned. And I'm new to meeting everyone, and they all said that it was a team. It was a team effort. Absolutely. And when you have that positive vibe on a team, it shows. So we
Yes.
definitely can't wait to see what's in store for Leatherman. Maybe there'll be a Leatherman part 2. Who knows what's going
Maybe.
on?
Maybe. He just won't have a claw.
Yeah. But with that being said, everybody, once again, please like and share and subscribe to Mothers Unfiltered, where we bring content about every single thing that affects our community, directly and indirectly. I love everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving Day weekend. Bye.
Happy
Thank you,
holidays.
Tia,
Bye,
for
everyone.
what you do.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.